So what's up? What have you been up to? That's an easy
Um,
question with wrestling, but
yeah, wrestling's pretty busy right now. My wife and I have 4 kids, so they keep us pretty busy. 3 daughters, and then we just had a little boy. He's 10 months old. He'll be 11 months this month. So coming up
nice.
on a year, and things are going well, but they are for sure keeping us busy. I think this next week, we don't have a free evening. So between
Really?
wrestling and kids schedules, and yeah, so it's teamwork that makes the dream work. I'll say that.
Yeah, so you got 4 kids. And how old is the oldest?
My oldest is 9, so 9,
Oh
6,
wow.
3, and then 10 months. And so we're done though. We're done.
Okay,
No
are
more
you?
kids.
Okay.
No more kids for us. So
Question for you about that. Was it, you said your youngest at the time was 3, or is 3 now your youngest
my
before? So
youngest my
yeah,
youngest is 10 months old right now.
the one before that. So like you had a
Oh, she's
3-year-old.
3. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
Yeah.
3.
Was it hard to decide to start over one final time?
I mean, my wife always wanted 4, and so
Oh,
I
okay.
I just kind of went with that. I didn't like I didn't really care how many kids we had. I mean, to a certain point, obviously, but I figured, and my wife's really competitive, and so
Oh, really?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. She would see like some friends of ours or anybody really in general, and they're like, "Well, if they can have 4 kids, we can have 4 kids." I'm like, "Okay, well, we got to stop that at some point." So, um, but yeah, she's always wanted 4 kids, and so we just kind of went with that, and
Cool.
here we
Yeah.
are.
Why is she so competitive? Where'd she get that from? Was she like a college athlete, or is she just wired
She
that way? Big family? What's up with
Yeah,
that?
she was a college athlete. She was a pitcher at Coe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'll brag for her a little bit. She would never do this herself, but her freshman year at Coe, she pitched in the national finals that year.
No
And then
way.
and just how softball works a little bit. It's a little more political than, wrestling. Wrestling, if you're top 8, you're an All-American, and there's nobody voting for you. Quite frankly, she probably had 3 or 4 All-American years, but she was only a one-time All-American. Um, and then when she graduated, she was third all time in strikeouts in Division 3. So, uh,
Wow.
yeah, she was pretty good. She was pretty good. So
Yeah.
that's where she
Well,
gets her competitiveness from. So
she
she's
was
got a good
probably
background.
she was probably pretty hyped when they made the finals that run a few years ago.
She was actually on the staff that year, so she was the
Oh, no
pitching coach that
kidding.
year. Yeah,
Well, no wonder
yeah,
why they made it.
yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but yeah. So she was on the staff, and then I drove. At that time, we had just the 3 girls, and our youngest was like maybe year and a half, maybe I can't remember for
Yeah.
sure. And so we drove down to Texas and in a van, and it was an awesome trip.
Mhm.
Our youngest actually got hand foot mouth on the trip, and so it was like miserable from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But the trip itself was really awesome. Like our older girls got to see high level softball. And at that point, they were starting to get into softball a little bit themselves too. And
Mhm.
so just to be able to be exposed to that level and the atmosphere and the environment was pretty awesome.
Dang, I didn't know she was on staff. That's cool. I talked to one of the players, Madeline
Yeah,
Parsons? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. She was on
She's
that team. Yeah.
she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah. 'Cause
awesome.
she was doing both volleyball and softball. And so like that was my curious part about having her was like a dual athlete. I mean, that's not something you come around very often, no matter what level. And she was
Yeah,
good at
and
both.
aside from her being a stud doing 2 sports, she was great with our girls. Lennon, our oldest, she'd take her under her wing and they'd play catch and do all the things that, when you're a kid, you think are really awesome. So, but yeah, she was fun to watch. There was a reason why she was doing 2 sports. She's
Yeah.
got the it factor for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever stepped in against your wife and like seen if you could at least make contact?
Well, yes. When we were in
Yeah.
college,
Yeah.
obviously you get to banter and back and forth a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, let's go do it, let's go, and she's like, well, I want to see a couple pitches. And when her first pitch, she pitches it, and it's like in the batter's box. I'm like, what are you doing? And she says, I don't know where it's going. I'm just throwing as hard as I can. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get hit in the head with this
Yeah.
softball. And so, but I stepped in the batter's box. She throws me a couple strikes, and I'm like, I'm so scared at this point because this thing's coming in there pretty hot. And I'm like sticking my bat out a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and I think I fouled off of two, and I'm saying like I barely hit the softball,
Mhm.
and but she struck me out twice.
Yeah. I've always wanted to step in and see what like a rise ball looks like, like because I played baseball in high school and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And so, not saying like I would get a hit or anything. I'm just curious what it looks like and a change up. Like when I'm watching the softball World Series and stuff, like it's crazy.
It is very different, and I don't have like a strong background in baseball either, but I know that when you're in that batter's box, that ball is coming in there really fast. At least that one time we did that, it was coming in there really fast. And actually, her best pitch, back then was a curveball, and it had such a late break. And
Mhm.
so like just that in itself, and when a ball can break or rise or drop, and
Mhm.
when it does that is pretty fascinating. And you're talking about a very short distance.
Right.
So
Yeah. What was it?
I
60 feet?
wouldn't recommend it if you don't have any baseball or softball backgrounds.
Yeah. What is it? 60 feet
I
from
think so,
home plate
yeah.
to the rubber. I mean,
Yeah. Yep, and it is coming in quick.
yeah. Dang. So we've kind of talked about everything but wrestling so far. Um, I guess we can do that now. So you're from Aledo, Illinois, correct?
Yep.
And that isn't too far from the Iowa border, correct?
No, it's like 45 minutes from Muscatine, so uh
Oh, really?
Iowa trips were pretty common when I was a kid. We'd come over here and wrestle quite a bit actually.
Really? Where
Yeah.
at?
We'd go mainly like southeast Iowa, so it'd be like Wapello, Columbus Junction. We'd go to Clinton every so often. Um, I don't know. I think I maybe like Mid Prairie, but yeah, Southeast Iowa a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you start wrestling?
Well, technically like 3 years old, but we all know how that goes. So you go out
Right.
there, you lay on your back, you wave at mom and dad.
Yeah.
But then I didn't really start getting, I would say, serious like 8-ish. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
Were
I
you
want to
wrestling
bump up
that
and
whole
try to
time?
qualify for state. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would wrestle, but again, you know how it goes. And so
Yeah.
once you get a little more serious about it, you're going to a little bigger competitions. You want to bump up and try to qualify for state or bump up in weight to get tougher competition. And I would say that started about 8, maybe 10.
Mhm. Yeah. Why did you even get started in wrestling? Like, what was the point behind
My
it?
my older brother wrestled, and uh, so I would just go to his tournaments. And again, I was pretty young, and
Hmm.
so plus I think I was just a pretty active kid and rolling around. Like my son now is, I lay on the ground and he's crawling all over me. So maybe from that standpoint, but I was in a gym a lot and watching my brother, and then there was a kid that a guy that was a state champion in Aledo, and I got to watch him do that. So I thought that was pretty cool,
Yeah.
and so that kind of probably slingshotted me into to getting more serious about wrestling. And I mean, I'm not a very big person, so uh, I think wrestling was probably the best fit.
Yeah. Did you do any other sports along like the whole circuit of youth sports?
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball when I was a kid up until high school, and then in high school I just did wrestling and football actually.
Football.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Really?
so we had so the class that I was in was really competitive. We had
Mhm.
I think there was like, man, it's hard to say, 6 to 8 college athletes in that
Wow.
class, and one of them went to North Central to play football, and they're like a powerhouse. They just played in the national championship game, and that's not an uncommon thing for that program to do. But we had we had some really good athletes, but we took second. We were state runner ups twice, our junior and senior year. So
Hey, and you were on both those teams?
yeah, yep. And I was pretty fortunate, honestly. Like we were really well coached and coached at a really high level. And then, on top of that, you're around guys that are, very competitive and they have goals themselves. So I was pretty fortunate to be around just a good group of humans.
You were a small guy. Like,
I was pretty small. I was pretty small.
I mean,
Um,
pretty small. Like, yeah, you were what, you wrestled 119 as a senior, but maybe you were
Yeah.
cutting weight. I don't know.
No, I didn't really cut a whole lot of weight. I was like, I think my junior year when I think I was 112 my junior year. I cut from like 120. So can we even really say cut?
Yeah,
My senior year I was 119. I think I was as heavy as 25 or 26. So, um,
that is
but
so
I went to a small school,
impressive.
so then playing football, I was fortunate enough to play. I just played defense, but
Mhm.
um, I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity to play and be a part of those teams.
Good point, I guess. Yeah, how big was Aledo? Like, how big was your graduating size?
I was like 85.
Okay.
My graduating class was so we were a 1A. In wrestling we were 1A, and in
Mhm.
football I think we were like 1A and 2A. I think.
Yeah. So that's probably is that slightly bigger than Alburnett? I'm not sure if you're getting
Yeah.
85 per kid for per grade there.
Yep. Right now, we're like 70 to 75, I think, per class, and that's just an average. Some
Okay.
classes are maybe a little bit bigger than that, some are smaller than that. So, yeah, we're a little. Alito is a little bit, or was a little bigger. They went to with another school, so I think they're bigger now.
Okay. Okay. So pretty comparable, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So why even wrestling in the first place? Like, I mean, you said your brother wrestled. Like, why did he wrestle? Like, what was the point of even wrestling? Were you just like high energy kids and they're like, get in the sport or something?
I'm not sure. You know what? I'm not really sure why my brother started wrestling. Um, I know my uncle wrestled, and so there's some.
Mhm.
My dad wrestled too, but that was back
Okay.
when we first started the program, and he actually wrestled for a guy who now has his name on a building in Aledo. So one of those storied, like, legendary coaches that went through a small school. So and he started our wrestling program, and so I guess you could say it's kind of in our blood a little bit.
Mhm.
My dad was never real serious about it, and he'd tell you that. My brother was never real serious about it, and he'd probably tell you that too. But again, you're just around it, and so I think that's probably why. And then, um, yeah, I think when you see, I mentioned watching that guy win state. When you see
Mhm.
something like that, you probably get a little more excited about what you're doing, and
Yeah.
so not everybody does that, but that for some reason hit me, and so I just, all right, here we go.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Like when you are a kid and you see somebody repping your school having success, especially high level success like that, winning state, like, yeah, it inspires kids to want to be like that,
Yeah.
athlete. So I can totally get it. Have you always been from Aledo or did you grow up there or is that someplace that you moved to or how'd you end up in
Nope.
Aledo? Oh.
We lived in a farm outside of town, and well, well, we moved there when I was 6, so I can't say I lived in that house my whole life, but
Mhm.
I mean, pretty much.
Got it.
So,
So you lived in Aledo, you just moved to that
yep.
house when you were 6?
Nope. Nope. Yeah, we're my dad's from there, my mom's from there, and yeah, we're Aledo born and raised.
Nice. Nice. That's, you know, I like that. Born and raised, your parents go through there. Did your grandparents go? I mean, it's just the Rush family from Aledo.
Yeah, the Rushes, my dad's side is really big, and they're all Aledo based,
Okay.
and um like my uncle's got my cousin now, he's got a Maytag shop in town, and my dad does his own concrete business um, in town. So yeah,
Nice.
uh, Aledo, thick and thin.
Yeah. When did you start having some success in wrestling? Like, how old were you when you started to really put it together?
um, I would say, like, if I go back way back to when I was a kid, I remember bumping up in age to wrestle to qualify for state. I wanted to get, when you qualified for state, then you got a jacket. I
Nice.
really wanted a jacket.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think it was probably about 10. So then when you're doing that stuff, then you're probably going different places. And I remember in middle school, I missed 8th grade graduation to go on a trip to nationals down in Alabama. I think it was like NHSCA nationals or something like that. So you start taking more trips like that. I was doing the IKWF duels when I was in middle school, all through middle school. And then, obviously you get to high school, and I did like the junior duels and things like that every year. It's Greco duels. And so Um, I would say, yeah, 10, 12. It's getting real serious.
Yeah. How did you find out about all these things? The one thing that I kind of learned was um, you kind of start out in your bubble, and then like as you kind of like get more invested in the sport, because especially back in that day when we were growing up, like it was hard to find national tournaments. Like we got a booklet of local
Yeah.
tournaments. I mean,
Yeah.
so like to even find out about Tulsa, it was like, what? There's a national tournament in Tulsa? It was like such a mind-blowing thing. So how did you like find out about these things to kind of expand your wrestling circle? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we used to take a lot of trips up to Chicago, and when you go to any tournament, whether it's a big tournament or a small town tournament, you run into people and you start to develop relationships. And I think that's just something that we did. We came over to Iowa. We go to Chicago a lot when I was in high school and middle school. And so when getting those connections and building those relationships, that obviously helps. And then, I'll never forget this. My freshman year, I was homesick from school, and somebody called, and then it was the landline, which I don't think anybody really has now. Uh, and I answered it, and it was this guy. He's like, "Hey, is Clayton Rush there?" And I said, "Yeah, this is him." He goes, "Hey, this is Craig Fallico," and I'll never forget his name just because he was my coach, or one of my coaches. And he was, "Hey, we're looking for a 98 pounder for junior Greco duels." And Connor Beebe, who I don't know if you know that name, but Connor Beebe mentioned your name, um, to to ask to come. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to have to ask my mom, my
Right.
dad." And so my parents were awesome when it came to stuff like that. And very rarely did we, if ever, I can't remember ever saying no to anything like that. And it was just something that we made work, both from a travel standpoint and then a financial standpoint. We just, hey, you're going and we're going to make it work. And so that's kind of how that happened. And again, just building relationships. And then once I wrestled on that team my freshman year, and then fortunately, they kept asking me back. So
Yeah, you must have done something right, made an impression, won some matches.
yeah, yeah,
98 pounds though.
yeah. So we're going down there, and they sent out the camp stuff, and they're like, "Hey, when you get to training camp, you need to be within 5 pounds." And I'm like, oh, and I was like 105, and I thought making 98 was a real big deal. Like, oh man, I'm
Yes.
gonna have to lose 7 pounds because my freshman year going into high school, I was my eighth grade year, I was 80 pounds, and then when I throughout the season, my freshman year, I was 95, 98. And I remember breaking 100 at like one of the last tournaments of the year. First time I ever broke 100. So I'm like 105. So I never cut weight. I'm 105. I have to make 98. I'm nervous about being +5. And we pick up this, Brett Robbins. You know that name?
Yeah.
Yeah. We pick him up driving through Bloomington down to Granite City for our training camp. And I'm like, hey, how much you over? And he's like, I'm 15. And I'm like, oh my Lord. I'm like, holy cow. He's like, how much you over? I'm like, 3. And I'm nervous to lose 3 pounds, and he's 15 over, and you know, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
he made it, and obviously, and he was like one of the best leaders I had ever been around, especially in high school. So yeah, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Wow. Now, I remember the first time I had to lose weight. It was like, yeah, 7 pounds or something. And it like you would have thought like I was dying.
It's life changing.
I was in seventh, I think I was in seventh grade. Yeah. Like, yeah. And I had it to lose. Like I was kind of like at that
Yeah.
point, like kind of a pudgier kid. And then kind of that's when I kind of grew out of that a little bit. I lost like 7 pounds and it was like, yeah, life changing. But you would have thought I was being tortured.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the truth.
yeah.
That is the truth.
But with you, I mean, shoot, you probably didn't have like I at least had the weight to lose. I mean, did you even like have 7 pounds to lose or 5 pounds?
Yeah, when I was, so like I said, I was 80 pounds in eighth grade and then 95 or whatever, and as a freshman. And so I would actually, my dad poured concrete. So he would, in my eighth grade spring, summer was my dad poured concrete. He'd leave, he'd turn the heater on, in the spring when it was cold out in the garage, and I'd go out and lift. And I'd get home from school and I'd do a second lift, and I did that every day.
Two
Um,
lifts a day.
yeah, I mean, I had to grow, right? So
Right.
I wanted to be a 4-time state champ, and so I had to grow. And so we got this lifting packet from Oh man, Mario Morgan is the kid. I cannot remember his dad's name right now. Um, but he sent it to us, and he's like,
Mario
"Hey, do
Morgan
this lift."
wrestled? He wrestled in
Yeah,
college,
he
right?
wrestled. He was a couple time champ at Nebraska Kearney.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I wrestled with him a little bit growing up, and his dad sent us this stuff, and he's like, "Hey, do this. This is what Mario did," and it helped because he was small too. And that's yeah, 2 times a day in the spring, 2 times a day in the summer, and then I played football obviously. So once the fall hit, it was football, and obviously did some wrestling over the summer too. But I had to grow,
Yeah.
So I did that, and um, yeah,
Was it hard to keep that weight on? Like, okay, in the off season, you're lifting twice a day, but then all of a sudden you get two sports season, whether it was football or wrestling, and like now you're maybe only lifting once a day. Maybe you might, depending, you might only lift twice a week because wrestling practice. Like, was it hard to keep weight on because you're being so active and you're not actively pumping, calories and weights and stuff into your body?
yeah, yeah. I don't think I had a tough time keeping weight on. Um, like I said, I didn't cut weight or anything, so yeah, I mean, I didn't. What I weighed is what I weighed, really.
Mhm.
And so, you know, back to previous point of like when I was 105, I kind of had it on me because I was lifting twice a day and eating and stuff like that. But then once, you know, that was in the summer, obviously, and once I made 98, I was back up to 105. So, but then I didn't. The only time I ever really lifted after that 8th grade to freshman year was in the summertime with football. We didn't have lifting at school. We lifted one time during the week during football, and it was just a Wednesday morning circuit, and so that's all we did. So from August to May, I didn't really do a whole lot of lifting, and so my development of my body was just June and July, really.
Yeah. So you were so at that time was it 103 in your
103, yeah.
okay, it was 103. Okay. Um yeah, I forget when they changed the weights to
Yeah,
105.
I know. It makes me feel old at least, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, when you
Eh,
tell people, yeah, I wrestled 103, they're like, huh?
yeah. Imagine what the people say when they're like, "Yeah, 98 used to be a weight class."
Yeah. You probably would have preferred 98 as a weight
I
class.
would have, yes, I would have. Yeah, for
Was it
sure.
difficult to wrestle at that weight, as like a freshman? Did you find yourself feeling undersized or challenged a little bit more just because you were naturally weighing 103 or 105 pounds?
Yeah, I mean my freshman year I was like I said I broke 100 late in the year, and so I was wrestling kids that were not only big freshmen, but then you had some that were big just sophomores and juniors,
Yeah.
and so kids that you would feel like you would normally beat, either you were barely beating or you were losing. And so, um, from that standpoint, it was challenging. But the one good thing was, and I don't know if this was anticipated or not, maybe so, but when I was growing up, a lot of times I would bump up in weight and I'd give up, 5 to 10 pounds at a tournament almost every weekend.
Mhm.
And so, uh, it never really was like well, these guys are bigger than me excuse, kind of. It was just something that was normal for me, I suppose.
That's an interesting and a good point. Yeah. Like you probably were
Yeah.
used to wrestling guys that were a little bit bigger, maybe a little older, depending. So,
Yeah.
did you wrestle Tyler Clark a lot when you were younger?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet we wrestled, gosh, I bet if you go back and count, I bet we wrestled 30 plus times. If you
Okay.
if you count kids in high school. Yeah. Did you have him on here?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I went back because I was looking at his brackets from high school, and I was like, hey, I know that name, Clayton Rush, and I'm like, holy cow! I mean, so I figured you guys wrestled quite a bit. Um,
Yeah.
did
When
you
we were
ever
kids,
did you get
it
him
was
or
well,
back
when
and
we were
forth?
kids, it was like every weekend we wrestled. It
Don't you
was
hate that?
every weekend. And I don't, I think he may have beaten me a couple times. Actually, I know he did beat me a couple times when we were kids, but it was, for the large majority of the time, I was beating him when we were kids. But then we got to high school, and I don't think I ever beat him in high school.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I ever beat him in high school. And one thing that he did that I didn't do was, and I imagine it was his dad, uh, got him into some weight training like his seventh and eighth grade year, and he started to develop a little bit, as he aged into the his freshman year. And so when he
Mhm.
was a freshman, he was a little maybe undersized, but he was a good sized freshman.
Yeah.
And whereas I wasn't, I just kind of got to it late, I suppose, but
Hmm.
it benefited him for sure. And so when we were in high school, he I would say he controlled every match that we were in, and there was really no wiggle room for me to beat him. And on top of being stronger at that time, he was also pretty stinking good at wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, did you ever think about, so like your junior year, like you said, I think you wrestled 112. I think he was at 119. Did you ever think about bumping up and wrestling him again or at state or anything?
I
You
don't
could
think
get him.
so. I don't remember it being like, hey, let's go wrestle Tyler. and
Mhm.
and honestly, like we were good enough friends that I think it was about time that we kind of split up, you know?
Sure. Okay, yeah,
And
I feel that.
yeah, yeah. And we both trained at Young Guns, and so we yeah, again, we were good friends. Lived 40 minutes apart. In my opinion, we should have trained more together. But that's me looking back. I didn't think that then.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I think it was just about time we split up and helped each other instead of competed against each other kind of thing.
Mhm. So you went to Young Guns. How did you hear about Young Guns?
Eric Jurgens moved to the area, and before that, I don't think there was any kids club. Maybe Dan Knight might have had his wrestling academy, KWA,
Hmm.
but that wasn't something that I went to. But yeah, Eric Jurgens moved to the area, and then he started Young Guns, and I mean, I should attribute a lot of my success to him too. He taught me quite a bit. I mean, he taught me an elbow pass, and that's like that's my go-to, even
Hmm.
still. Uh, but yeah, like we had a good room. We had a really good room. He had Trezinos from Bettendorf were in there. Tyler was in there. Warners from Geneseo were in there. And again, those are old names. People probably don't remember or know those guys, but it was a good room.
Who are the Warners?
Ryan and
Yes, okay. And,
yeah,
And
Tanner,
his
yeah,
brother, Tanner? Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
Ryan did that or does that Wrestling Changed My Life podcast, and
That's how I got started on this, kind of.
really, yeah,
I should
it's
attribute
it's
that to him
awesome.
because, yeah, I was listening to him and his stuff, and I was like, gosh, I kind of want to do that. Only on like a lower scale. Like
Yeah,
he's awesome.
what
Not
he's been doing is phenomenal. It's
right.
it's really cool.
Yeah, agreed. Um, that's funny that you used to cross paths with him. So then where did you grow or where did you go to clubs growing up or how did you go to just some dad's barn or something? Like that's kind of
Nah, nah,
the
we didn't have the Shalista barn
there you go.
in Aledo.
Yeah.
No, so when I was a kid, it was just the Aledo Club, and then when I got to, I think it was like third grade, maybe. Um, my main training partner was my cousin, and he passed away. He got struck by lightning. He passed away, and so we started looking at different areas, and we had a relationship with Bam Pastelnik up at um, East Moline, and so I had gone to their camp a couple times in the summer, and so we went up there, and so for the large majority of my time as a kid wrestling, I was a East Moline Panther pinner. So they had some really good training partners where it was like Alex Alanez was one of them. Oh man, Joey Garcia, I think is his name. It was a good room too, and it was good for development, and they pushed you pretty hard. And Bam Pastelnik he was a high school coach at that time, but he'd poke his nose in quite a bit at the kids club, and he had a really strong wrestling background. I think he was like, as far as high school goes, um he was like a junior Fargo champ, I believe. I don't think it was held at Fargo back then, but that would be the equivalent. And then he went to UNI and wrestled, so he had a really good background. And yeah, that's kind of how I went through as a kid. I was out of Aledo, but there was no barn. There was no barn. It was just out of high school. High school.
Did did you end up going? like you just mentioned KWA. Did you end up going to that eventually? Or
Nope, nope. And I don't know why. We just were young guns and we just stuck with it. And Eric was awesome. You know, he would challenge me quite a bit. I would say, mainly from a competitive standpoint, and I was naturally competitive anyway. But he would just do things like, um, you know, we went up to regional plains one year, and I didn't want to wrestle freestyle. I loved Greco. Greco was like a different sport for me, and
really?
so yeah, like when I wrestled Greco, I didn't feel like I was wrestling, and so it was kind of like your break from wrestling, but you're actually obviously getting better at wrestling.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to wrestle freestyle, and I remember him saying, "Well, you're not a real competitor if you don't want to do freestyle." And I was like, "All right, I'm doing freestyle." And so
Hey.
it's funny. I think I took like third maybe in Greco, and then I won freestyle, like kind of just to say, you know, yes I am.
Mhm.
But yeah, he would
Yep.
do stuff like that, and I didn't know Dan Knight back then either, so there was no relationship there. Maybe if I did, I may have popped in, but
Mhm.
you know, he's obviously an awesome coach. And then we actually just competed against Bettendorf a few weeks ago, and just to be able to hear him communicate with his athletes, and I think you could probably do this with a lot of coaches, just learn how to communicate with kids, and each kid's different. And um, yeah, if I could have been around him, I certainly would have.
Yeah. There's something refreshing though about hearing you talk about how, well, I kind of went to a little bit of a club here and there, but mostly it was Aledo through and through. There's something refreshing about that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I was recruited by East Moline. You know, you grow up and you have a relationship with those guys, but you know, Lido's our hometown, and
Hmm.
you know, there's obviously a lot of that stuff that goes on now, which is unfortunate. But you know, when Alburnett does a really good job of, you know, that's obviously where I'm at now, but they do a really good job of taking pride in our kids club and
Hmm.
developing kids, and so you know, there's a lot of pride that comes with being homegrown, so to say. And
Hmm.
so we had the option of going to other schools when I was a kid, but it was never really it was never really an option, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
We
sense. I
didn't
mean,
really entertain it, I suppose.
yeah. Yeah. So there's just, yeah, something refreshing about hearing that, like you said, unfortunately, it's not quite like that now. So whenever I hear those stories, I'm like, it's kind of nostalgic.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
if you
for
want to
sure.
use that word. Uh, but I know you said the goal was always to be a four-time state champ. But your freshman year, you came up short to the aforementioned Tyler Clark. I mean, was that devastating at all to have one of your dreams kind of go out the window, or did you just kind of refocus and be like, okay, I'll put that to bed, moving on?
Yeah, I mean, much like any other sport or anything else that you do, once it's done and you move on regardless of the result. And so I actually one of my a guy that I looked up to, I idolized him. My style was built after him, my stance was built after him, and Steve Amy's his name, and he was a three-time state champ, and he actually lost his senior year in the finals to going for four. Yeah, so um, I idolized that guy, and I remember walking up after losing to Tyler, and I sat down by him, and he goes, got to learn to get out. And so I traveled with him and they used to do Amy Brothers Wrestling Camp, and I traveled with them. I went to every camp they put on, and so at every camp I would get rode by Steve, and got to learn to get out.
Yeah.
And so it's just little things like that. Like it wasn't obviously it was a dream crusher. You know, you want to be a four-time state champ and then you want to be a three-time state champ and that doesn't happen. So you just got to kind of, you know, develop and give attention to what needs to be improved and both things that need to be improved and both things that you do well. So, yeah, got to learn to get out.
Yeah. What was the mindset kind of, if you can remember, going and facing a very familiar opponent. I mean, like, I mean, when we were just, last night was the football playoffs, and the Packers were playing the Bears for the third time. And it's like, how do you be different? How do you do something different to show a new wrinkle or something to get them off guard? Like, so I'm just imagining you going out and wrestling Tyler Clark for like the 25th time and like, you know,
Yeah. Back then as a kid, and I think there's a lot of people that say this now, and I hear it. Well, I know there's a lot of people that say this now, but it's like, well, they know you so well. What are we gonna do different? Well, the things that you do well, or the reason you're having success is because of the things that you do well. And so, if I could go back, I would probably try to focus more on the things that I did well. And he was really good on his feet, and that was my best position as well. But I'd imagine that I probably was a little hesitant in doing some of the things that I was good at because I knew that he knew. And
mhm,
so, I hear that now, and as a coach, it's okay. Well, we got to develop what you do well because those are the things that are going to make you successful, and you can't hide something because they know about it. If they know about it, then that's going to have to make you be better at what you do. And
mm,
I can both say that from getting the short end of the stick with Tyler as we, went through high school. And then I can also say that on the flip side of it, being on the winning side of it, in college wrestling Mark Kist. I wrestled him 10 times in 3 years. And so the things that I did well were what helped me win those matches. So,
mhm.
yeah, I don't think there was much, you know, attack of doing things well. And again, he just was good.
Yeah. It's almost like, it's making me think or realize that instead of trying to do something different, it's maybe finding a new way to get to your attack. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
this is my attack. This is how I normally set it up. But if I can have several ways to get to my setup, to get to my attack, like that's where the kind of the advantage is.
Yeah, there's always that's the thing about wrestling is it evolves so much. I mean, 10 years ago we didn't have a far ankle scramble. There was no far
Yeah.
ankle scramble. It was all leg pass.
Mhm.
And so there's so many different nuances with wrestling that are really fun to learn and then to teach. And each kid's different, and so their styles are different. And so you just have to kind of pick and choose, what you're gonna show them to help make them that single leg better, or how to get to that single leg. If this isn't working, then you can have this as an option. So I really enjoy that aspect of wrestling.
Yeah. Um, so I'll say you came up short your first half of your high school career, your freshman and sophomore year, but then the next 2 years were yours. Did you feel, let me ask you this, because you came up short those first 2 years, did you feel a sense of urgency going into your junior year? Like, gosh, my high school career is half over. I don't have a single state title yet. What am I doing? Like, there's a lot of doubt and like kind of just a lot of emotions that can go into that when you're like, holy shit, my career's half done and I haven't accomplished anything per se.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't remember feeling that urgency. I think I also don't remember feeling like I was trusting the process, but I think there was that. I think there was that because I did a lot of wrestling in the spring. I did a lot of wrestling in the summer. And then once football started, I didn't step on the mat just to give myself a break. But I don't remember feeling much urgency. But I think one of the biggest things was, and I think kids probably have this now, is you enter wrestling season and then you know what you've done previously, you know who you've wrestled previously, and then you see the names that are at your weight, and so you obviously stack yourself up against those other guys. And so when I saw those names at my weight, I'm sure that I was like, okay, I can go win this one.
Mhm.
And not that I didn't think that with Tyler, but as a kid, as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid, every one of those guys, unless you're a dude, they have that mental block. And so I imagine, actually, I know that I did have that with Tyler. And so then, you move on to a junior and you see those names and, all right, I can beat these guys. I
Mhm.
can beat these guys. And fortunate enough, I did.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you start having the foresight of I want to wrestle in college, the next level? Like when did that start to become a major focus of your life?
I would probably my sophomore or junior year. I
Mhm.
don't think I just think it was, but I also think it was something that just was going to happen. I don't think it was something that I was contemplating. Wrestling is just something that's always been the thing. And so I don't think I never did contemplate it. I just always assumed that I would, I guess. But then obviously you get to a certain point where you're wrestling junior duels and, you're a sophomore, you're wrestling junior duels in between in the summer, and then you're a junior and you're doing the same thing and you're exposed to all this tough competition. And then all of a sudden college coaches start contacting you. So, um, yeah, I mean, once you become a junior and start getting recruited, then obviously it kind of, all right, we're doing this and things like that. But I don't think it was ever really a question.
Mhm. Was it, did you know much about D3 wrestling at the time? Like, or were you, sometimes as you, especially back, I keep saying this back in the day, like it's
I
like
know.
like grew up in the ancient times, but
Yeah. Well, we kind of did.
I know compared to kids now, yeah. You see a lot of D1 and that's what you're exposed to a lot of the time. So like when these smaller schools contact you, you're almost like, excuse me, who, like you've never heard of
Yeah.
them. You've never, like it's hard, like D3 is hard to, you know. So I guess full circle, my question is like when did D3 and other levels of wrestling, like did you know about them growing up?
Yeah. I mean, a few things with it is when I was a kid, we used to go to the Augustana wrestling camp all the time. Like I'd go to
Okay.
that camp. A friend and I would go to that camp every single summer. And so when I was a kid, I didn't really realize it. But when I was in high school, I had started to learn okay, they're D3 and then there's different divisions. And one thing that even I forget is NCAA wrestling was not, um, it wasn't present really.
Mhm. Right.
From a hey, I can get on here and look up videos standpoint.
Mhm.
The NCAA finals were on ESPN, and I remember staying at my grandma's so I could watch it on ESPN because we didn't have ESPN in the country. We didn't have cable, and so it was on very rarely. And I knew that was Division One. So then you go to the Augustana camp every summer, and so they're D3, and then obviously when schools start contacting you, at that point you probably have a pretty good idea of Division One, two, and three, and
Mhm.
then also by that point you pretty well know like who you are, where you fit in, and then what you need from an academic standpoint. Those D1 classrooms, they get pretty big, and I had to work for what I got academically, and so I knew that maybe a smaller atmosphere was best for me.
Good for you to realize that, like some people just zone in on the wrestling portion. Like D1 wrestling is where like that's my dream.
Yeah,
So like kind of the other stuff falls to the wayside or kind of gets put on the back burner in terms of academics and social life and how you fit in and all that stuff. So kind of good on you to be self-aware,
yeah,
you needed
yeah. I mean,
the whole
I
circle.
went to Coe to wrestle,
True.
but also knowing that I needed to be in a smaller school
Mhm.
atmosphere. So
Yeah. What were classes like there? Did you have semesters or because like Upper Iowa does like trimesters or something? I forget what they call it. Like
yeah,
12-week
yeah, it was
courses or whatever.
semesters. It was
Okay.
semesters, and it was like 4 classes at a time, basically, for a semester.
Okay. Well, before you get to um, like we said, the first half you came up short, but the second half is where you really started to make your mark in terms of Clayton Rush is him kind of a thing, You
I don't know
won
about him, but
well,
yeah.
well, you won back-to-back state titles,
Yeah.
you kind of there's something being said about winning that state title and kind of getting that monkey off your back, if you will, a little bit. Like, did
Mhm.
you feel that at all? That,
I didn't feel it in high school, but I very much felt it in college.
really? Okay.
Yeah, that my junior year when I won, I was like, yeah, like finally, that's what it was.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't feel as much in high school, but very much in college.
Yeah. Okay. When after you won those two state titles, I mean, had you pretty much solidified that you were going to Co, or were there some thoughts about going elsewhere? Like, I guess my question is, how did you end up at Co?
My junior year, I was actually like I was a Wartburg Knight. I was going to Wartburg, and I didn't ever verbally commit or anything like that. But then the process happens, and my senior year, at some point in between my junior and senior, I met with Coach O, and if you ever been around that guy, he can motivate anybody. And so when I was in front of him, he's also big and intimidating. But when I was in front of him, yeah, I just knew I could tell that he was somebody that I wanted to compete for. And I was fortunate enough to have coaches as a kid in middle school, in high school, that I had coaches that I wanted to win for and I wanted to compete for and train for. And I could tell that Coach O was that person for me. And then on top of it, Coe was just a good fit as far as, school size, class size, all those things, the team dynamic and all of it. But um, yeah, when I met with him, even just the first time, I knew that that's where I wanted to be. I also caught one of their duels up at Augustana. They went to Augustana and dueled, and I very much appreciated the way they competed. They were out to score some points, and they were hard nosed, blue collar uh, wrestlers, and that comes from somewhere. And so I knew from that standpoint too. That was a good fit.
Yeah. Was D3 kind of the route that you had zoned in on by that time, or were you still looking at maybe Division 1 or, you know, maybe
Yeah.
Division 2?
I I'm not one to just like close the door and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm not doing that." And so I did get contacted by a couple D1s, but I also knew, like I said, I kind of knew who I was. I was a
Mhm.
two-time state champ, but and this isn't everybody. This isn't everybody, but I knew that, a 1A two-time state champ is a little different than at that time there was only two classes. Different than a 2A two-time state champ. And I'd been exposed to tough competition and things like that, but I knew who I was. And I also appreciated wrestling right away, and Co offered that too. They wanted me to come in and be the guy right away. They didn't really have anybody at that weight at that time. Or actually, they did, but he was graduating. And so, where, those D1s, they probably want you to red shirt, and that really wasn't something I was crazy about. But um, I would just say, when I started getting recruited by schools, it was kind of just D3. I didn't
Mhm.
really have much interest in going D1.
Yeah, you didn't have much interest, huh? Like you were,
Yeah, not really. Um, I guess you could. It played out this way,
yeah.
which is I'm pretty happy for, obviously. But I think I appreciated being a bigger fish in a smaller pond, so to say,
Mhm.
and not that I liked all the praises and whatever. Um, but those things don't happen if you don't have an opportunity to wrestle right away. And
Mhm.
so that was probably a big draw to Co as well, was that there was opportunity just to come in and be the guy right away.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it hard to make 125 your freshman year in college? Because like,
No,
no? Okay.
no, I was like 130, and our 33 pounder was a senior that year, and he was struggling to make 33, and I just remember not having to do a whole lot to lose weight. He'd give me a
Yeah.
hard time, and um, yeah, he gave me a pretty good hard time, but he's also one of the reasons why I was as successful as I was. It's because I had good
Mhm.
training partners around me, and he didn't feel sorry for me at all, and so he made me tougher. And
Mhm.
so, um, but yeah, no, I didn't have to cut much weight my freshman year.
Was it hard to keep up? Like, the reverse side of that, was it hard to wrestle guys who were 125 and maybe a senior in college and you're not really struggling to make weight because, you're only cutting a few pounds?
Um, I don't remember it being an issue, and maybe it just goes back to that just was
Right.
normal for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't remember it being an issue. I don't think I ever looked at somebody and thought, well, they're kind of big. Um, but that also goes to I had awesome coaches, Coach O and Dustin Hinchberger. Uh, I mean, they ingrained confidence in me. And not that I didn't already have it, but I remember getting text messages, Clayton Rush, 2008 national champion. And so they ingrained that confidence in me. So I didn't really look and feel that I was outmanned by size or anything like that.
Mhm. When did you start to believe Clayton Rush 2008 national champ?
Well, it wasn't the first couple weeks of school because I got my butt kicked. I remember just emotionally not keeping it together and
Yeah.
wondering, man, what am I doing? But then you start chipping away. You know, you don't score in a practice, and the next time you get your hands locked on their leg, and then the next time you take them down one time in a 20-minute go. And so I just kept chipping away at it. And again, I think, and I can give you a number of examples of no was never an option. And so it just wasn't an option to just not be there. And so if I was going to be there, I was going to do what I had to do. And so I think probably, our first competition, I remember wrestling a St. John's guy that was ranked, and I couldn't tell you what he's ranked, but maybe a returning All American, maybe. And I beat him. And I thought, okay, I can do this. And then at national duels my freshman year, I pinned the returning finalist from Augsburg. And then again, then it gives you a little bit more confidence and okay, you can go win this thing. And so I would say probably about, I don't remember when that national duels was at that time. Probably I think it was before Christmas break, maybe not,
Mhm.
but I would say that probably slingshotted me into thinking I could win it.
And you were a true freshman at this point.
Correct.
Fresh off a high school state title, and you're like, you know what? Why not? Yeah, why not me?
Yeah.
Why can't I
I
do this? You know?
I remember saying I had a buddy from Colorado or California, and he asked me what my goal was, and I said I want to be a 4-time national champ, and he laughed at me, and and it wasn't like he was trying to be a jerk or anything. He just thought
Right.
like, okay. And so as the season played out, I remember at one point he was like, "Hey man, you can do this."
Mhm.
I was like, "Yeah, let's go." So yeah, you just have to have that belief and confidence, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, and also there's a belief, but there's also putting the results together. Like going out and actually doing it. Like, hey, I
Yeah.
can do this. I know, a lot of people say they can do it, but then it's like actually performing when the lights are on. Like, there's a difference there that I'm starting to learn a little bit too in terms of watching the guys in the practice room and how they scrap, and then they get on the mat, and it's like, that's not quite the guy I'm watching
Yeah.
in practice.
Yeah, you can ask Coach O. Um, that was something that I enjoyed. I loved it when people were watching. I don't know I don't know
Hmm.
where I learned that from or when I developed it. But I very much appreciate I appreciate when people are watching, and the bigger the stage, the bigger the product I suppose you can get. At least back in the day, when you're competing at that level, um, and again, it doesn't always play out in your favor, but I liked it when people were watching.
Yeah. How did you balance the academic side of it? Like you kind of said earlier that maybe you weren't the strongest academically, and you may needed a smaller class size. Like, was that an issue at Co at all, or did you handle that pretty well?
Um, I mean, probably like any other student, you there was a class I struggled with that we had to be smart about, but I uh I just learned time management, I suppose, and like how
Nice.
to
Yeah.
manage your time, when to study, how to study, and things like that. And I had good people in place to help me learn that too. And so once you learn that time management piece, I felt like, and I'm a routine person too. Once you figure that out, it just kind of happens naturally, and everything goes how it should. Honestly.
Yeah. That took me a long time to figure out time. Like, I wish I
Yeah,
had learned that at 18. I learned it at like 30.
yeah. So I it was I was pushed pretty hard just to you get good grades, and that's
Mhm.
again back to no is not an option. Uh,
Mhm.
Poor grades were not an option.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also something satisfying about like doing good academically when maybe like, gosh, I'm not the strongest academic, but like when you start to kind of get some good grades, you're like, hey, okay, like that gives you a little extra boost of confidence, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're doing well in something, it's going to give you confidence, likely in other areas too. So
Yeah.
again, if you can get that time management piece down, a lot of those college students really struggle with that. Um, it takes stress out of any other area.
Yeah. Um, well, your freshman year, I mean, yeah, you really burst onto the scene, but did you really think like you burst onto the scene, or did you just feel like you were doing what you were supposed to do, basically? Like people were
I
like,
think,
oh, probably going, "Oh my gosh, look at this guy. He's a freshman." And you're like, "Yeah, so I'm just doing my thing."
yeah, I think I just was. That's just what I was supposed to do.
Right.
At that time, I had previous competition. If I just go to national duels itself, I had previous competitions of like, hey, you should be doing this.
Hmm.
And again, I had coaches that instilled the belief and confidence in me. And so when things like that happened, it was just supposed to happen. And when I got pinned my freshman year in the finals to the same guy that I pinned at national duels, so
Yeah.
uh, it was like I was heartbroken. And I remember getting interviewed after that by just a local KJ Pilcher actually, and he said something like, you're a freshman. That's pretty good to be on this stage and this level and to compete. And I just remember saying, because I had one of my teammates was standing by me, and he was one of those ones that like he was with me because he wanted to make sure that I was okay.
Hmm.
He was that teammate, and I just remember saying, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're here to compete, and if you win, you win. You lose, you lose. And I lost, and so um, it didn't really matter to me what age I was, how big or small I was. Uh, you're a wrestler, and so you're supposed to go out and win. And so
Yeah. I mean, to add salt to the wound a little bit, not only
I'm
did
good.
you beat, it was Seth Flodine,
Hmm.
because he beat Heilman in the semis. And we don't talk about that a whole lot though at the academy. We don't talk about
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah.
that.
Howard
No.
should have won that bracket that year, though. He was the most sound wrestler I'd ever wrestled, I think.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
good.
I might have to
Gosh, he was
cut that
good.
out because yeah. Um,
That's good to hear that he's still sour about it, though, because there's some things I'm still sour about.
yeah. No, I mean, you want to talk about sour. The most sour he was, I think it was the year before that when he got pinned by Nate Hansen.
Oh, yeah. Was he not in the finals, though?
No, that was in the semis
No.
as well. Yeah.
Oh,
I found that
that was
match.
my senior. That was my senior year of high school. I was actually at
Yeah.
D3s that year, and I watched Hanson win it and beating
Yeah.
Flodine.
Yeah.
So,
So,
dang, I didn't
yeah.
know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it and I watched it. And yeah. So, anyway, he's still burning. Don't worry.
I
Um,
will say good, but I don't mean it. I don't mean it that way.
yeah. Almost good as in like validating that, like, okay, I'm still burning about some of the things.
Still competitive. Still
Yeah.
competitive. Yeah.
Um, so you wrestled Flodine and you pinned him at national duels. You were also up 5-0 in that finals match too, weren't you?
Yeah, I hit a
Mm.
dresser dump.
Yeah. I
My
mean,
uncle has a he took a lot of pictures as I was going through college,
mhm.
and it's a still picture. So I'm pretty sure he just caught it at the perfect time. But that guy was flat. I mean, he was flat as can be. And again, it was a still picture because I don't remember thinking like, oh, he should have been pinned. And I'm
Yeah.
not one like that either. Like if I'm on my back, I'm pinned. And so yeah, there's one of those. Yeah, I was up 5-0, and then I cut him, and then I just relaxed. I relaxed in a front headlock because hey, I'm up. I can relax. We can get a stalemate. And it was so weird. And Seth he's such a long arms, long legs. And I just remember next thing I knew I was in a cradle and I thought, oh no. And then I was flat.
Yeah. And the other thing is, who I think was in Seth's corner might have been Sam Barber.
No kidding.
Yeah, he coached at Augsburg, and I forget when he would have left Augsburg.
Oh my gosh. That's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, I forget when he would have left Augsburg, but he coached Augsburg for quite a while in the
I did
early.
not know that.
Yeah.
You have to ask him.
Mhm. I will. I will. I'm sure because how old was he coached Marcus Levesser.
He was there right before me. He won his fourth my senior year of high school.
Yeah. So he was
So
there
I
when
watched him win his fourth. And so I'm
Yeah.
thinking, hey, be four-time national champion.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, did you flush that one right away too, or did that one sting a little more? Did that one take a little longer to get over?
Yeah, that one took a little minute. Um, yeah, that one took a little minute, I would say.
Yeah.
My sophomore year took a little longer than my freshman. My freshman year, it was like nationals and spring break, and I took a couple days, and um, I was kind of boohooing about it. And my
Mhm.
roommate, was like, "Hey, come over to my hometown and whatever." And I was like, "I don't know," and he's like, "Quit being a
Mhm.
baby." And I was like, "All right, fine." Um, but my sophomore year, that one really hurt, just because there was not a single person in that bracket that I hadn't beaten, or you know Jake Oster was one. I can't remember if he won it that year or not. I think he did. Um, we wrestled in Vegas, and I was putting it on him pretty good. I mean, it was like takedown, 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 and then I had him in a double leg, and we landed, and he ended up pinning me. Um, but there wasn't anybody in that bracket that I couldn't beat. And then I'm wrestling a guy in the semis that I had majored the year before at that same tournament, and he beat me. And again, I just let my guard down. Same thing. Not positionally, but
Mhm.
in the finals my freshman year, I let my guard down. In my sophomore year in the semis, I let my guard down. And so that one hung on a little bit longer, but that's how it goes. You
Yeah.
move on, and then you once you get back to training, it's just like, all right, here we go. So,
Yeah. And then you faced a familiar foe on the backside in Flodine, Seth Flodine. You just couldn't avoid that guy.
dude, and if you put those matches side by side, it's almost identical. Dresser dump to his back, although it was only a 2 count, so it was up 4-1.
Mhm.
Cradle. It's crazy. And then the Augsburg crowd, just like last year. That one, yeah,
No
yeah,
way.
yeah. They're oh yeah, those guys, and they should be. Those guys were relentless.
Wow. But I mean, I guess it's also on the backside, like
Yeah, they had reason to do it.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, did you at that point then, like I asked the question about your junior year, did you feel a sense of urgency at that point in your career? Like now I'm halfway through my college career. I've finished second and fifth. I don't have that national title. Am I doing things the right way? What am I doing wrong? Like, I mean, you could spiral then too.
Yeah, I would just also I'd go back to no is not an option, and you just move forward, and you train, you put yourself in the best position to be successful. I also think there's some dues to be paid too as a
Mhm.
underclassman. And so I think I paid those dues. And then as a junior, well established, now I'm probably cutting weight, you know,
I was gonna ask how much you weighed by the time by
probably
that point.
about, from 40, 38, 40, which again isn't that much, but the way my body was built, and I was probably going through puberty still as like a freshman, beginning of my
Yeah.
sophomore year for real.
Mhm.
Uh, so then you're a junior, your body's hardened up a little bit. um, Weight training becomes a little more advanced and
Mhm.
regular. And so I don't remember feeling the urgency to go win. I just think it was just an expectation, just like it was the other years. And fortunately, it just played out differently in the end.
What do you think played out differently?
Um, I mean, obviously wins and losses, but I would just say from a everyday standpoint, just training. Training was good. Um, this will sound weird, and I don't know how many people. Well, it shouldn't sound weird. How about that? I met my wife. She was a freshman when I was a sophomore, and so I met her, and obviously she was really competitive. And sometimes relationships can be a little bit of a distraction, but
Yeah.
she was not. She was like, I mean, she was exactly what I needed, because I was really focused, and um, I'm gonna go. I'm doing this. I'm gonna go win. And she's like, "Hey, why don't you just go compete and see what happens?" And so I needed that. I needed that.
Ah,
And so just that perspective, and not that my coaches didn't offer that to me, but if you know Coach O, he's a pretty intense guy. He's intense, and he's intense all the time. Where Ashley gave me that little bit of an outlet where, hey, this isn't the end all be all. Sun's gonna rise tomorrow. Go see what happens.
You
And so I
know,
needed that. I needed that.
I was going to ask actually that earlier, but I'm glad I waited. I was going to ask how that sort of, when you have wrestling and your academics and you're like, maybe you're not the strongest academically, so you have to put a little bit more. Now you're at a relationship into the picture. Like that's a lot of time as a college athlete that you already have divvied out. So I was curious how that relationship piece sort of threw a curveball. I get it because she plays softball into the mix. That
Best
was
pitch.
lame. I'm gonna cut that out. Oh no, I'm
No,
just kidding.
no, keep that in there. Keep that in there. No, I think it was. I think it was just an outlet. I think it was. I don't think it added any stress,
I love
just
it. Yeah.
because I knew she was competitive. She had goals, and we both had common ground of like, you're not going to get in my way, and I'm not going to get in yours. And so
Awesome.
it was. It was pretty. It was healthy. It was awesome. And again, it was an outlet, and I very much appreciated her outlook on competition, and she had the, hey, just go compete and see what happens. But I'm telling you, like, when she's in the circle, she was intense, and she is competitive, and she's very intense. So you can get to that intense level of competition and focus, from two different perspectives. And so
Love
that's
it.
something that it taught me then, and it's actually something that I try to hang on to now too, and teach and do things like that.
Yeah. I love it because like, yeah, the way that she competes has to be not doesn't have to be, but like is slightly different because she has a team around her and she can't
Hmm.
control everything. She can't
Right,
control the second baseman committing an error,
right,
you know.
right. And so then that perspective, that competitive perspective, is probably overlooked or underappreciated in wrestling. And
Mhm.
so I know you hear like Ohio State talk about, control what you can control. Penn
Right.
State probably does the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, um, again, that's something that I try to hang on to for myself. Then both as a competitor and then now as a coach. So
No, well, what I was thinking about was when you said that, at the time your girlfriend said, why don't you just go out there and compete, and see what happens like that. That reminds me of Johnny DeJulius. The biggest thing that he always says is surrender the outcome.
yeah,
And like that really hit me when he mentioned that. Like I wish I had thought of that, when I was younger. But like go out there, put your best foot forward, and whatever happens, happens.
and that is such a hard thing for kids to grasp,
I
even like
know.
as a competitor, like,
Yeah,
because ultimately, what do you want? You want to win,
exactly.
and it's so hard to do that both in a competition and then also in training, because what are you training to do? Training to win.
Hmm.
Well, we do these little goals every day in our practice room, and the
Every
the
day.
goal, yeah, the goal isn't win lose. The goal is, what do I need to do specifically to be able to win?
Hmm.
And so each guy has just like, I put three things up that they need to focus on, and they can pick that area, and they got to get better at it that day.
Yeah. So I thought that was a great perspective. And also it's probably a perspective that she had to have because again, like we talked about, like she couldn't control everything.
Yeah, it's her background.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
how she was. Wrestling guys that were maybe a little bigger was normal for me,
Hmm.
where that mindset and perspective is probably normal for her by the time she gets to college.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was a really nice refresher.
Yeah. So we roll around to your junior year a little bit here, and now you have that target on your back, probably, like what did you feel any extra pressure going into that year in terms of your accolades beforehand? Now people are gunning for you. Uh,
Hmm.
they want to beat you. They might just even be wrestling to keep it close, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, there was guys, that they'd get my arm or in a Russian or a wrist, and they'd just be tighten me down. But kind of like wrestling on a big stage. Like I wanted to be the guy that guys wanted to beat. Like, I
Mhm.
wanted to be that person. And so I also appreciate chasing something and going to get it, being the underdog. I very much appreciate that too. But I also wanted to be that guy. And then when
Mhm.
I was the guy, it just motivated me all that much more. Like, what can I do to spread the gap? I kissed, for example, not to, sorry, Mark, not to throw you under the bus, but he was one of my biggest rivals. And, fortunately, I won every time, right? But he single-handedly made me better. Like he made me better because he was so good at reattacks and he was so good at slowing the pace down, but he was so explosive. And if you made one mistake, he was going to counterattack you and you were going down. And so he made me be explosive with my hands to my setup, to my shot. Um, he made me learn how to create space and move guys that were, he was real short and blocky. Like
Yeah.
he was super hard to get out of position. So he again, um, he very much made me a better wrestler. And so again, not to throw him under the bus, but
No,
that's
I actually
that's
had him
just
on.
what training that's what it does for you is it gives you a daily focus of okay, I just wrestled Mark Kist in an overtime match the first time we ever wrestled, and then the last time we ever wrestled, I think I beat him like 6-1. But through that course of 3 years, you know, um, fortunate that I had that kind of target on my back a little bit, but that motivated me to what can I do to spread the gap? What can I do to make sure that these guys aren't getting closer to me? And he's
Yeah.
just one of those guys, one of the main guys that helped do that for me.
Yeah. You want to talk about spreading the gap your junior year? You were right. So Jake Oster did win the national title the year before. So he's a returning national champ, and you're a finalist and a fifth place finisher. And you go in there and you just, as the kids say nowadays, you put belt to ass and won like 14-3. Like you spread the gap. You gave no chance of ever being like, I'm not losing this match. Was that kind of the mindset? Like, I'm here, you know, this is mine, kind of a
Yeah,
kind of a deal.
his style of wrestling was, I mean, it was so funky. You couldn't ride him because he was reaching back with his feet and his hooks, and he'd like trip you and reverse you, or he'd roll you and
Mhm.
you'd be on your back, or he'd put a whizzer in and he'd do one of these. Um, and my style was really sound, technically sound, staying feet to feet. Even though there wasn't far ankle scramble, but he could pass a leg pretty quick, and he was really long. And so our styles kind of clashed a little bit from that standpoint, but it also played to my favor. And I knew that. And I had wrestled him previously and I'd taken him down. I hate saying at ease because it wasn't easy,
Right.
but his style of wrestling made it easy to get to his legs because he actually wanted you there. And so
Hmm.
I had some really good training partners that if you can finish on somebody who can scramble and find your ankles and pass a leg and get off their hip and make things kind of weird and tough. If you can finish on those guys, you can finish on anybody. And so I had really good training partners that would put me in those positions. And but yeah, 14-3. Is that what the score was?
10-3, sorry, 10 to
10 to
3.
3. I was gonna say, I think he may have tried to throw me at the end, which ended up being a 5-point move. So maybe it wasn't quite 10 to 3, but But yeah, he was I actually enjoyed wrestling him because he also made me better.
Mhm.
You couldn't leave any air when you got to his legs, otherwise you were going somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's just the way it is at that level too. Like any level, the next level of wrestling, like there are guys where most of them, yeah, you can't, there's no room for error. And that's probably,
No.
unfortunately, like why you got second and fifth is because you left that door open just enough.
Yeah,
And at that
yeah.
level, you can't do that.
You cannot do that. You can't let your guard down. I said that
Yeah.
earlier. But that's what that is. That room for
Mhm.
error.
Yeah.
No.
And gosh, like you said earlier, like monkey off your back. I mean, did you just ball?
I did. I did. I just like, oh my gosh, finally. You
Hmm.
know? I had a buddy that even was like, I could just see it. I could just see you were just like exhale almost.
Yeah.
You've been training so long to do something and you don't do it, you don't do it, you don't do it, and then you finally do it, and it's pretty rewarding. And obviously for you as a competitor, it's pretty rewarding. But then, everybody's got a different personality.
Mhm.
But I also had Coach O's put a lot of time into me.
Yeah.
Eric Casey's put a lot of time into me. My teammates put a lot of time into me, and so you do it for you, but you also keep that in mind. And I have that personality where I want to win for Coach O. How long has he been? How long has he been doing this? And he has one national champ, I think it was. You know, so
Mhm.
I wanted to go do that for him. I wanted to be that person for him.
Yeah. And you were the inaugural winner of the D3Wrestling.com Wrestler of the Year.
Was I now? Hey, how about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the first year they did that. So,
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah.
First, how about
Yeah.
that? Didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, did you get like a plaque or anything from them?
I don't.
No.
I don't think so. I don't
So
know.
they
I don't
just
think
wrote
so.
about it? They didn't like, oh, okay.
I guess if I do have one, it's in a box, which
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything.
Wow.
Or
Okay.
maybe Coach O might have something. I don't know. I don't think
Okay.
so.
Um, it sounds like almost like you were in a sense exhausted after you won. Like you were so like there was this buildup of just like not anxiety because I don't know if you were anxious about it, but like when you finally won it, you're like, oh, holy cow, like I'm exhausted because I've been working so hard for that. Almost like an exhaustion of relief, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It absolutely was. There's just, you know, every competitor goes through any sort of adversity. And you can just strictly talk about wrestling. You can go injuries, tweaks, uh, lulls in confidence, things like that. And so, as a competitor, I also had those similar things. And so, um, when you're able to overcome that adversity, it's pretty. It is a relief.
Mhm.
It is
Now,
exactly that.
this may seem like a silly question, but was it harder to get that first one or was it harder to repeat? Because after you won it, like you're, oh, finally, but now again, you got that target on your back and you're a senior. There's just motivation could become a factor. Like there's just a lot of other factors that could come in to make it more difficult to repeat. But I'm not saying that's what it was like for you. I'm just curious.
No, I would compare it to high school, honestly, where my first one I felt like was harder. My second one was, and not harder because the competition wasn't good.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't think the second one was harder. I think the first one was harder.
Yeah.
And kind of like in high school, where hey, you gotta learn to get out.
Mhm.
My coach Eric Casey, he's a lightweight coach, and he messaged me the next morning, Sunday morning after I won it, and he went, this this returning champ didn't win it. This returning champ didn't win it. This returning All American didn't All American. And he laid it out for me and was like, if you think you've done it, you're wrong. And so
Mhm.
you better get back on it sooner than later. And so I just had good people around me. I had good people around me to keep me both level headed and then, training with a purpose.
I laugh only because like, dang, the next day he couldn't give you like a week.
No, that's not how he rolls. I mentioned his name earlier, somebody that I wanted to win with or win for. And when he sent me that, and not that I was actually like, I can't wait to lift on Monday.
Mhm.
you know, um,
Dang.
so he, but he wants it too. He loved that success, and obviously he's a big part of it, and he would never in a million years take credit for it, but he absolutely deserves it. Um, he wanted to be there again, and
Yeah.
so did I.
Hmm.
He wanted it
Yeah.
for me.
Well, and the guy you beat in the finals that year might have was probably on that list. Guys who didn't win it again or didn't win it the next year. Jake Oster.
Yeah, he was. He was the first name he listed.
Yeah. Yep.
He was
Returning
the
national
first name.
champion. Didn't win it. So
Don't think it's gonna come easy.
yeah. Um, however, you kind of just said it did come easier. So Yeah.
Well, I would say I would say it did. Well, as far as from like a pressure standpoint,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like the pressure, like, oh, I'm a returning champ, I have to win it. I didn't ever feel that. I didn't ever feel that. Fortunately, I know some
Yeah.
people do.
Yeah. You cap off your career with another national title and almost, yeah, pretty much cement your legacy. I mean, had you thought about your legacy at that point? Like after you won it, like did it take a minute to sink in like what you meant to that co-wrestling program and what you accomplished?
The only thing that I remember feeling afterwards was and actually it happened in the semis. Happened in the semis. I pinned this kid that was this real dangerous kind of wrestler, and I got in a high crotch and came down and ended up pinning him. Anyway, I just remember the crowd going crazy, and then like I got overcome with emotion, and like this is I have one
Hmm.
more time to come out here and compete in front of all these people. Your home crowd, your mom and dad, and you have all these emotions go through you, and then then after that finals match, I just remember just an emotional dump, just because it was the last time, you
Yeah.
know, and not that I couldn't have continued competing, and I should have. Maybe the biggest regret, and if that's the biggest regret I have in life, then so be it. Um, but that's the last time, and I just kept thinking that after the match, and I was overcome with emotion, and I mean, even after the semis, I remember Coach O. He went up to my mom and dad, and he's like, "Hey, is Clayton all right? He's pretty emotional right now. Is he okay? Like, is he hurt? Is what's going on?" And I just told him like, "Hey, it just kind of hit me. I only have one more time." So, um, but yeah, that's just kind of how competing goes, and um, that's probably what was the most tough about my senior year, honestly.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
wasn't really concerned about the legacy and what I left with Co. It was more about, and not that I didn't care about that, because I absolutely do. I appreciate everything that Co has ever done for my family and I.
Hmm.
Um, but that's what got me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as the saying goes, leave the place better than when you found it. And I feel like
Yeah,
that was exactly something that you accomplished.
yeah. And it's funny you say that, because two things. One, I just let one of my wrestlers know, leave it better than you found it. And then that's something that my dad, my mom and dad, like, you leave it better than you found it.
Hmm.
Yeah, my dad's a concrete pourer, so if you don't pick up after yourself, if you don't clean those tools right, job can't be done the next time the way it should be done, because those tools aren't cleaned. And so
Hmm.
that was something that was instilled in me from a pretty young age.
Yeah. And there's also something, uh, I'm going to use the word refreshing again because I can't think of a different word right now, but that you chose to go to Coe over Wartburg. Like being from Iowa, Wartburg was the standard. Everyone went to Wartburg. If you were good, you went to Wartburg, but then to have somebody like you go to Coe and put them and bring them back to prominence and put them back on the map. I mean, what? I think you got fourth, 3 years, and fifth, like
Yeah.
you were a top five team every year. I mean, that's cool and special and like there's something said about that too.
Yeah, that would go all the way back to the recruiting process, and I've had a couple conversations with Coach Keller. Um and I don't know if I've ever said this to him, but him and Coach Miller and then a few other coaches came to my house, and they put this paper in front of me, and this kind of contradicts, like, I like being the guy to beat, but I also appreciate being the underdog, and I'm gonna go get you.
Hmm.
And so they put this piece of paper in front of me, and it was how many times Wartburg has beaten Co in the past. It was every time. It was every
Right.
time. And when they put that paper down, I just remember thinking, I'm gonna beat you. And I don't. That's just where my mind went, and
Huh.
I don't think it was a wrong recruiting pathway, tool, whatever.
Hmm.
I just think it hit me in a certain way, and um, I didn't ever beat him. I beat him individually, but I didn't beat him as a team.
Yeah.
And so, uh, yeah, I that's just kind of where my mind went, and fortunately we were able to get some trophies, but I think the closest we ever came to beating Wartburg was my junior year. We had a pretty tough team. Maybe it was my sophomore year. I can't remember, but we were close. But close doesn't cut it.
Yeah. Yeah, like 9 times out of 10, that'd probably get the recruit. But there's always that
Yeah,
one that instead looks at it differently, like you did, where it's like, hey, that's great. Fine. But you know what? I'm different. I'm built different. I'm gonna kick your ass instead.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if he knows that. I wonder if he. Yeah, I should maybe let him know that someday.
That's funny. Um, gosh, I'll try to wrap up quickly here, but
You're good.
how did you get how do you remember how you got the call that you were getting into the Co Athletics Hall of Fame?
Coach O called me and told me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, which was pretty cool. Which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. And then another brag. My wife's in there as well. So
Nice. Really? I was wondering that.
yeah,
As I said that, I
we're
was like, I wonder if she's in there too.
yeah we're like we were curious about this. We're like, how many other married couples are there? There's one other married couple, and I think they're pretty old.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's kind of cool little snippet of us. But
That is cool. That is cool. Did you go with her? Like, when did she get inducted?
oh, I think it was like 2 years after I did.
Ah, so you were
Maybe.
first?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool though. You know, that you both are inducted in there and you both were able to go there and support each other. And you probably brought your kids too. So,
Yep. Yep. Pretty cool. And it's again pretty cool for them to see and just to let them know like, hey, there's things out there for you to go do. And
mhm,
we don't live in our hometown. And so we don't expect them to stay here and go to we would love it if they went to Co, later
mhm.
on in these years to come. But there's things to go do. Go do them.
Yeah. So how did you end up at Alburnett now?
So after I graduated at Co, I coached there with Coach O for 4 years. And then Prairie's coach, Blake Williams,
Oh,
left
yeah.
Prairie. Yeah. He left Prairie, and so I interviewed there against Kane Thompson, who was at Alburnett. And I actually student taught for both of them.
Both
Um,
Blake Williams and Kane Thompson?
yeah. And they're both awesome people. And
Yeah.
they're awesome people. Uh, so I interviewed at Prairie, didn't get it. Kane got it. And so then Alburnett obviously came open, and I went out there and interviewed. And 11 years later,
You've been there 11 years?
I know, yeah. I don't feel that old sometimes.
Yeah.
At least from like I've been there 11 years, my body sometimes
Yeah.
feels that I've been there for a while.
Well, I can't believe it's been 11 years because I like Kane Thompson was there, I think when I was in high school, maybe
Yeah, probably.
in 2010, like
Yep, yep,
2008, right around the Shalista times in Hallblum.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, he was there.
gosh. So what were you doing when you were at co-coaching? Like what were you doing then?
I was just coaching, and
Just
honestly,
coaching.
like at that point, your title is assistant coach, but it should be a workout partner.
Yeah.
um, and so, but I wanted to coach. I've wanted to coach forever. I knew that in high school, and uh, so coaching was I was pretty ready to get into it.
Hmm.
Um, but I should have kept wrestling. Um, which is it is what it is. But diving into coaching was really fun, and we had like Jimmy Gatto was a 125 pounder, Jordan
Heck
Westfall was
yeah.
33-41, yeah, and so I got to coach those guys. Dimitri Boyer was a 57 pounder, and so I worked with those guys, and um, just like any coach has experienced, when you get with kids that want to learn and they want to win and they want to do good things, it's super easy and it's super fun. And
Mhm.
and that's what those guys they were competitive. They wanted to win. They'd do anything for it, and they did. They did anything for it. We had Jimmy competed with half an arm. Like he's getting stingers. He had half an arm. Jordan Westfall dropped a weight. Dimitri Boyer, one of the biggest gamers I've ever been around, and so it was just a lot of fun. And I learned that that's what I wanted to do for sure. And then and I didn't know at what level. I just was at that level at that time. And not that I wanted to leave Co by any stretch, but I had a teaching degree and it was one of those, it was at that moment where if I didn't get into it, then I probably wasn't going to. And so
Mhm.
my license would expire and then you had to do all the other things with it. And Coach O was very, very supportive and like, hey, go, you know, go do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so, and at that time too, you're thinking about getting married, having
Yeah. Having a
kids.
family. Yeah.
And so you have to look, okay, how are we going to support this? And
Hmm.
so
Yeah, for
that's kind of
sure.
how that played out.
Yeah. And those guys were your teammates, right? Like Jimmy
Yeah.
Godwin, Boyer, and Westfall. Like, so
Yeah.
it's probably cool to continue to work out and coach them and see see their careers through all the way, you know?
Yeah. I would imagine they probably saw me more as a workout partner, which is fine, which was fine. But if there was ever a coaching moment for me to them, they were very accepting of it and respectful.
Yeah.
I know sometimes it doesn't play out that way, but you're also in
Yeah.
college and you're mature and um, yeah, no, it never felt like I was still one of their teammates, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Jordan Westfall, he's somebody I've been poking about.
Yeah, get
Get
him
him
on
on here.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, his story is kind of crazy. He wasn't a starter at all. And then, or he
No,
didn't make the tournament, or maybe he wasn't a starter. I forget. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's a national finalist.
yeah, he wasn't. He was a few. We have a group chat. A few
Yeah.
of them give him a hard time about being JV, and uh, they do. But yeah, a lot of it was he just was at the wrong weight, you know. And
Hmm.
I think wrestling is a sport where you have to be at the right weight, and it looks different for every single individual.
Right.
Uh, he's at the wrong weight, and when he finally was at the right weight, and then he got on a roll. He got on a
Yeah.
roll, and it was fun. I remember before the national tournament, he goes, "Hey, give me the 7 seed. I'm gonna beat the 2 seed, and I'm gonna be a finalist." And I'm like, "That's bold. That's pretty bold of you." And then just played out that he was a 7 seed, and it was right where he wanted to be. And he had in his mind, "I'm gonna wrestle this guy in the quarters. I'm gonna wrestle this guy in the semis. I'm gonna be a finalist."
And
And
there he was.
sure as you know what he was.
Yeah. Um, what's it been like, now you're at Alburnett for 11 years. I mean, coaching at a school that had the history it did when you got there. I mean, was there I know we talk about pressure a lot, but like to keep it rolling. I mean, Kane Thompson's leaving. I mean, some people might be like, "Oh no." Well, it was a fun ride, guys, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, was there pressure to
Uh,
keep it rolling?
I didn't feel much pressure. And honestly, when my first year, I walked into a perfect situation. I can't take credit for that team winning two state titles, duals and traditional.
Whoa, whoa,
I just
whoa,
get,
hold on.
I just
Yes,
get,
yes, you can. You were still the one that had to pull the strings and keep it going. There's a lot of examples, and I can't think of them, but I'm just saying there's examples of a new coach coming in, and it kind of goes the other way. Like it nosedives. Like
yeah.
that can happen. Like,
Well, how about this? The expectation for myself was that we go win it, and so maybe that was just something that I could offer them.
mhm,
Maybe some things technically that I could offer them too, but as far as from like a talent standpoint, it was already there. It
mhm,
was it was already there, and it was already there. That foundation with that group was already there, and so I was pretty lucky then. But just I think my expectation was to go win, and it never really dawned on me like, hey, I got to keep this program going. It did eventually, but it wasn't that year. It wasn't that year, and um, yeah, I mean, I didn't feel that. And somebody asked me afterwards, like, that's a pretty tough thing to do, is to handle that pressure. And I never really felt that pressure. Maybe because the expectation was there for me, and I think well, I know it was there for them. So
yeah. But to walk in as a fresh coach, there's a lot like you got to earn their respect. Like there's a lot of layers to coaching that goes beyond just like wrestling,
yeah,
that keeps the train moving in the right direction. And so, give yourself a little credit for keeping the train on the tracks, like
yeah.
so
Yeah, I had to gain them a little bit, I suppose, but in
sure.
high school, kids are just so unique. If at least at Alburnett, if they don't respect you, it's gonna be a little tough. And
See?
luckily, even now, I feel like I have a lot of respect at Alburnett, and that's both wrestling and outside of wrestling.
Hmm.
Um, but there was a few personalities on that team that I guess I had to rope in. And a lot of it, and I go back from the very beginning of having this conversation with you, is you have to build strong relationships, and you have to do it with the individual, and every individual is different. And so I think that I did that fairly well that year, and so they trusted me. And but two, they were they were built to trust their coach, and
Mhm.
so that was an easy transition for me, I suppose. Um, but yeah, I just built strong relationships with those guys.
How did you transition from college room to a high school room? Like a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes when you go from college to high school, you bring that college mindset and it's like, whoa, whoa, these
Yeah,
high school kids are not the same.
yeah. I always say this: that first group that I had at Alburnett was a college room. That
Wow.
was a college room. And so my transition from that first year, there wasn't much difference. Um,
Wow.
I mean, I coached them, but I competed with those guys in the room. Like it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I just mentioned this too. Like I didn't learn high school wrestling until a few years later when I was like, there's a lot more that goes into this.
Hmm.
This isn't you get to recruit who you want and have them be in your program all of a sudden. Although now it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, but I had to do lessons. I had to grab the third and fourth graders and the middle schoolers and do lessons with them. And so I didn't know that right away. And so that's why you saw Alburnett win it in 16, and then they went like there's the cliff. you know.
Yeah.
But then we got some kids in, and then you start, building it back up. But I didn't learn until probably year 3 or 4, maybe 2, 3, 4. Like, there's a lot more that goes into this.
Yeah. When you quote unquote, like, kind of fell off the cliff a little bit or, because that's wrestling in general. And
Yeah.
um, But I mean, how difficult was that to handle being at the top and also being at Co where you were a top five team and like you're competing for national championships as a team and as a wrestler and in high school now it was that same way. Now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, whoa, full stop. Like, man,
It
it's
was
gonna be a
humbling.
rough. Yeah.
It was humbling. But just like, I feel like Coach O really instilled this in me. And not that I didn't growing up. I had a really good upbringing, but um, Coach O is you find a way. And so just like any competitor, and they can look at it finding a way from a different avenue, but in the end, it's finding a way to be successful. I started to do those things. Again, lessons, camps, just taking kids places, taking kids to AAU duels in the spring and making sure they're in a club. Are they going to DC? Are they going to big game? Are they, you know, where are they going? Are they on the mat extra? And so I had to start doing those things, and I just had to find a way to get that program back to competing for trophies.
Yeah. Couple of last questions for you here. The
You're
first
good.
one, how do you like when I like to ask this question a lot of the time. When you are trying to step away from wrestling and just reset yourself, like what do you do to take a break from wrestling to recharge your battery?
Like like a hobby, you mean?
Yeah, like because wrestling can be exhausting, coaching can be exhausting, dealing with all that stuff can take a lot of energy out of you. So like, what do you do to step away from that to be like, I'm not dealing with that today. I'm gonna go do what Clayton Rush wants to do so I can come back refreshed here.
Yeah. I would say, before kids, I'd go fishing. Even like when we
Mhm.
had one or two kids, maybe I'd go fish, take a boat out, go fishing.
Yeah.
Now I have four kids, and so I would say you really don't have like I don't have time to go do what Clayton wants to do, you
Uh-huh.
know? And that's not a bad thing at all. I love it.
Right.
I love that my daughters are in basketball and they're in softball and they're in volleyball, but you don't really have time to do that. So your hobby becomes instilling work ethic in your kids.
Mm.
And so I know that it doesn't always get perceived or looked at that way, but when you take your kids to volleyball practice, I don't want to go to volleyball practice. Well, you're on a team, you're part of a team. And so you instill things in your kids by doing that. But Um, that's what I do for fun. And
Yeah.
or on the flip side of it is my wife takes them and I stay home with the others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if I can dive into if it's not kid related, if I can dive into a Netflix series of some sort, I'll do
Yeah.
it. But time to do that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Do you get to co much and like watch their duels or softball
I
games or
don't.
anything? You don't? Yeah.
I don't. Softball. When Ashley coached, we went there. When they played home, we went there quite a bit.
Mhm.
It's tough to get anywhere at this point.
Yeah.
Between if it's in wrestling season, obviously we're busy. Outside of wrestling season, you've got our girls are pretty heavy into softball, or I should say, youth softball is pretty demanding.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't. Unfortunately,
Ah, that's all right. What does your wife do?
she's a teacher. She's an elementary teacher, first grade.
Or at Alburnett too?
No, no, at elementary in the Cedar Rapids district.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
You both are
Yep.
teachers, huh? What grade do you teach? Are you high school PE?
I'm high school. So I'm high school PE, but I basically do like I'm a Alburnett strength and agility coach. So we lift and
Oh, okay.
it's athletic based. It's pretty awesome, honestly.
Yeah. So when she comes home with like, oh my God, my kids were like this today, are you happy you don't do like first grade or like elementary?
I'm like, you're crazy. You're dealing with first graders. She deals with first graders all day, and then she comes home and deals with first graders all day. I couldn't do it.
True, true. That's funny. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, the last question I wanted to roll on you here was, it sounds like you still kind of get around in the room. Um, a little bit. You put your shoes on, you try to scrap a little bit. Is there somebody that like over the course of your career coaching at Alburnett that kind of got you and like not embarrassed you, but like, fires up the team whenever a coach gets taken down by one of the athletes? Like, I mean, it's like the coolest thing anyone's ever seen, Was there, can you think of a time, and it looks like you can, where a
Oh,
couple of
multiple.
the athletes got you and you're like, geez, have I lost it? Like, or geez, these
I
guys are good.
I've been really fortunate recently to have just good groups of kids come through.
Hmm.
Kids that are like serious about wrestling, whether they are serious about it from the standpoint of they do it from November to February, and then they do a couple of tournaments outside of season, or they do it year round. So I've been really fortunate to be around a lot of guys, and I'm gonna blame some of the times that I got on my size. I'm not
Fair
the
enough.
biggest
Yep. Fair enough.
person, and so they'll look at it as an excuse, which they should. But yeah, there's times I mean I've got Tanner. You go all the way back to like Tanner Sloan. We used to we used to wrestle, and then he got pretty big. Well, he was big when I got here, but he became a man. And I remember over Christmas break, he put it to me, and I said, "Okay, we're only hand fighting from now on." Um, so you go
Fair
back
enough.
to him, and then you go, just this recent group of Rowdy Neighbor, Preston Klosterman, Reese Klosterman, um,
Gosh, yeah.
and Reese actually. The other guys would do it, but they would do it in a little more. Well, they weren't quite humble about it, but Reese was like he let me know about it. And if you don't know Reese, but it wouldn't surprise you. Um, and then now you have Owen Henriksen in here. He's a sophomore. You've got Egan Fleshman's a sophomore. He's a heavyweight. So I
Hmm.
have a little outsize there.
Hmm.
Cooper Franklin's one. He actually just split my ear open last week or 2 weeks ago. Uh,
Damn.
yeah, and so yes, there's been plenty of moments, and some people are. I mean, everybody's different. Some will let everybody know that they got me, and sometimes it's me letting everybody know that they
I
got
was
me
gonna
because
say, yeah, heck yeah, you got to do that. You got to let them know who the alpha male is.
yeah. Oh no, I'm saying when I get got, it's me. It's my competitive spirit showing in frustration. So,
Mhm.
but I also do let them know that I'm. I shouldn't say king of the house, but try to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
there's moments like that, and honestly, like, and I'm sure other coaches would say this is, when those moments do happen, it's almost also a little moment to be proud. Like those guys are
crap.
doing what the
Very
things
true.
that you're helping them do.
Very true. Very true. almost like you're proud. Yeah, well, you just said
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
for sure.
Wow.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Um, wh- I said last question, but now this is the real last question.
You're good. You're good.
When somebody says to you, you're the greatest Division three 125-pounder, like like can you let that sink in and be like, you know what, like I am considered, I can be considered, like the accolades you had, what you accomplished. I mean, it's up there. I mean, do you think of it that way from time to time?
Uh,
Like, gosh, I
no, I don't look at it that way. Especially coming from somebody that I was 1-4 against. Um, make sure he knows that. No, I mean, I think some people say like living in their glory days.
Mhm.
It's just not something that I do. I'm very proud of what I did,
Yeah.
but my purpose is different now, and
Mhm.
so if that's how people view me, then that's pretty cool. But I also want people to know me as a person because
Yeah.
that's far more important than any wrestling match that ever won.
Yeah.
And so, while that is very flattering of some to think, that's not something that really crosses my mind.
Have you sat and thought about like your wrestling career and like your accolades and like how far you came and your Hall of Fame and like, I mean, does that sometimes kind of make you feel good? Like pat yourself on the back, like live in that moment for living, for just a moment where you're like Clayton Rush.
Yeah,
Clayton Rush did make an impact on wrestling. I did pretty good.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty proud of what I did, and it's more about like I kind of mentioned it earlier. Like everybody faces adversity, and how do you handle yourself in those moments and things like that. I think that I'm more proud about that than I am the wins and losses, or
Mhm.
wins, I should say. Never really proud about a loss. Um, um, but yeah, I mean, I'm proud. I'm proud, but there's always something to go get. It's an expectation, like I mentioned.
Mhm.
So I don't sit down and like puff my chest. I wouldn't say. My friends would probably say different. Like if I'm close enough to you, I'll be like I'll drop a one liner, but
Sure.
it's not in a serious way. I don't really think that way. And my wife would probably tell you the same thing. I'd probably drop it. Well, I actually did to her the other day. So um like listen to me. Uh but it's never in a serious manner.
Yeah. Do your athletes know kind of your what you accomplished and not that you're puffing your chest, but
Yeah.
just that, hey, yeah, this is what I accomplished, this is what I achieved, this is how you got to get there, kind of a
Yeah,
direction.
yeah. One thing that I do with those guys is, and they know, but one thing that I do with those guys is I talk from personal experience
Yeah.
because that's the only experience that I have, and and I make sure they know like it's not me bragging. It's just moments of success or failure that I was in and that I want you to learn from, and so um. I mean, I'm not standing up there saying I won a national title in 2010 or whatever year it was, but it's just personal experience, and so they do know, and it's not by me saying what I was.
Yeah. I just like to, now that as you get farther and farther removed, people
Yeah,
start to look at you more as a coach than an athlete, and they're like,
yeah,
oh, wait, you won a national title? You won
yeah.
two? You were three times. Like they start to like, wow, they like become more impressed, you know?
The worst part is some of those guys will be like, "Hey, Rush, you still got it," and I'm like, "No, no, he doesn't." Like if somebody, if Guzman from North Central were to walk in here, he's number one right now at 125. If he were to walk in here right now, he'd probably wax me with the mat. Like he would just hammer me. But because they just don't quite get it, maybe, I guess. I don't know. But which is flattering to hear, of course.